Back in the day, Fire in the Booth used to be one of the best platforms in the early 2010s. An artist who was on the come up, whether they had an album coming out, a mixtape coming out, simply just hot at the time, would land a Fire in the Booth at the perfect time, and it'll just catapult them into the next stage of their career, or catapult them into the next position that they need to be in. And you see, back then, you didn't need TikTok to go viral. Verbally, through word of mouth, your Fire in the Booths get spoken about in the streets, in schools, at work. Someone's coming into school the next day saying, "Did you hear so-and-so's Fire in the Booth?" And if you haven't, you're missing out. You're not part of the conversation. You can't relate to certain man. We've definitely seen artists reap the rewards of being on BBC Radio and Extra Fire in the Booth, which in my opinion was and still is the best era of Fire in the Booth. Artists like Nate Smalls, who at the time had a song called Smoking, had a remix coming out around the same time, he had a big buzz around him. When he done that Fire in the Booth, the rest is history. The numbers speak for itself. J Hus is another prime example. People might say his Raid freestyle put him on the map more than his Fire in the Booth, but look, both of them equally got a part to play in his career. Bugsy Malone, another artist that no one had a Scooby-Doo who this guy was. But he done one Fire in the Booth, clashed with Chip, and after that gained more followers, more listeners, more fans. Without the Fire in the Booth, he wouldn't have had the clash with Chip, and without the clash with Chip, he wouldn't have gained more followers and more fans and more listeners. A Fire in the Booth that always gets brought up in conversation when people say, who's got the best Fire in the Booth? It's K Coke. This is about 15, 16 years old, and back then K Coke might have not been the most serious artist, but it definitely showed you as a listener, as a consumer of the product, that K Coke is someone you need to listen to, someone you need to take in, someone you need to watch out for. I don't feel like I get that same feeling when I listen to Fire in the Booth these days. And another Fire in the Booth that gets brought up in this same debate of who's got the best Fire in the Booth is Nines. Nines' Fire in the Booth is probably the most timeless, the most memorable, most soul connecting, and even resonates with the 420 community, you could say. And I don't know if maybe, from an artist standpoint, if this was just a marketing strategy or it just fell into place naturally, but him having his Fire in the Booth on his mixtape Gone to November might have been one of the best marketing tactics, because as a fan, obviously, you've heard the Fire in the Booth, you know it bangs, but you can't access it at the time. When you've seen the mixtape Gone to November and you've seen Fire in the Booth, it just made you want to just download it. You wanted it on your phone, you wanted to have easy access to it. Now, if you fast forward a few years, Fire in the Booth starts getting a little bit weird for me. RS comes, does her documentary, goes viral, little skit, everyone's got jokes. Michael Dapper, Man's Not Hot, little skit, goes viral, everyone's got jokes. And don't get me wrong, those are probably the most funniest Fire in the Booths, but Charlie Sloth changing from a DJ / host into some sort of like X Factor judge, and then all the jokes, it's like the essence of the show has just been taken away. It's not doing what it's meant to do. Fair enough, it did put them two both on the map in a sense, kind of said, oh yeah, these guys are funny and whatnot, but they weren't the first two to do it. If you want to go back a few years, Man Them on the Wall, they had a Fire in the Booth, hit 1 million views, so probably that's where the inspiration came from. But then if you want to go further back, when Fire in the Booth was hosted by Tim Westwood, you had Mo Gilligan and Jazzy do their little skit or their little segment that didn't really go off, but they're probably the first two comedians from what I can remember to do a segment like that on BBC Radio 1. And I'm not saying that Fire in the Booth became a joke, but it's almost like anyone could just get a Fire in the Booth after that, and it moved up on music and was a shock for everyone, but it still generated good views. But then people like Drake's getting a Fire in the Booth, Will Smith's getting a Fire in the Booth. There's bare in between that I can't be asked to go through, but essentially, for me, it just like damaged the brand and what the platform represented. And don't get me wrong, it still generates great views. And in the modern day, I'd say Headie One's No Borders Fire in the Booth and even Digga D's Fire in the Booth are probably two of my favourite since moving over to the channel. And there have been some artists that have returned, and one that sticks out like a sore thumb to me is Potter Payper's one. And when he went on the first time 11 years ago, generated 1 million views, but then since going on Charlie Sloth's channel, 444k. And for me, Potter Payper is one of the best UK rappers that we have to offer in the country, and for me, he shouldn't be getting or accumulating those type of views. TikTok in this current day, in this market, is one of the main tools be used for promoting when it comes to spreading awareness of a new song or a new product or whatever it may be. And maybe it's my algorithm, but I don't see a clip at least of this new era of Fire in the Booth. Today, I can probably say Desi's performance and Headie One's No Borders is what I've seen, but I'm more likely to see Young Spray, Link Up TV behind bars more than anything else. Has Fire in the Booth gone on some sort of downward trajectory, even though it still performs well, but it's just not what it used to be? Or you let me know in the comments, am I going mad, or is this something that's facts?